Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Rules?
There are no rules.
What rules?
This is a revolution, damn it!
You'll hear things you've never heard before.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yada, yada, yada. We should lead with the headline. But first, in a second, we are the Other Alliance Guys, at least 2 out of the 3. We're awaiting Jeremy to show up in a little bit. But we are a production of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around, especially today, the National Wrestling Alliance. And this gentleman, our resident fantasy booker, is here with me today. I'm happy to see him. It's Dave Scooby, everybody. How are you?
Doing well. A lot of news, a lot of stuff to talk about. And I mean, all we can do is keep our fingers crossed, hope for the best, and just I mean, go with it.
That's well said, my friend. You see right at the top of our screen there, you get a TV deal, and you get a TV deal, and you get a TV deal, Oprah style. Well, right before we went on the air, our buddy James H. Jackson Jr., who has his finger on the pulse of now, tweeted up to Dave and myself, and I'm sure a bunch of other people, sometime late this afternoon, that TV deal for the National Wrestling Alliance has been leaked. So here's what we know right now. According to House of Wrestling and possibly All Effin' Wrestling, that's AFN on Twitter, according to them, they have learned that the Top 20 network that Billy Corgan, so, what do you want to talk about? The Top 20 network Corgan refers to in the deal that he has inked that was coming soon for NWA TV is the CW. And some logistics, they say, are being worked out, but an official announcement should be coming relatively soon. The 2 deals that Corgan mentioned are for 2 different NWA products that will air on the CW, NWA Power, and a reality TV show about the day-to-day, behind-the-scenes business of the NWA. NWA Power is expected to debut before the CW. There, of course, we've seen the production upgrades already. Dave, this is big news for the NWA.
Yeah. I'm just I'm hoping that they're ready to put their best foot forward. And it's one of these things of, you may be wondering why they do certain things. If this has been going on for at least the last 6 months, if not the last year, if they've been talking about it, that may answer some of the questions of why they do what they do. We don't know what Billy has in mind, but if you question why maybe USA was taken off, well, they wanted to concentrate on Power and getting things going, maybe getting more talent that is TV ready, getting more names that are established. It's just, it all works to make the NWA a better wrestling promotion. And it's one of those things that we don't know what they're actually going to be going through to make this a reality. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that they just take it slow and do it right. Do it the right way.
It's so different to come from, let's be faced, like, let's face it, really, since the pandemic, there's been some things for us to cry about.
Mhm.
And to see the upswing as we continue to support through, let's just call a bit of a leaner era, to the NWA, to see television deals coming on for two different programs, to talk about the return of the territory system. Like, it's and that in itself, I think, is an important marketing ploy for all of the, trying to get some of those fans of yesterday back again. And I'm glad to be here now, at least in this moment, where there's exciting changes ahead for the National Wrestling Alliance. So there's a lot of people in the chat right now. And if you're hearing a binging in the background, it's because our Discord's going insane over this right now. Willie Bowen's here. Willie's becoming a fodder critic now. He's like, well, Tyrus is gone. I got to find someone new to pick on. Willie's here, and Fuzzy's here. He's taking off in a second if he hasn't already. Thanks for dropping in, Fuzzy. Media Mike's here, demonetizing Mike. Who else we got here? We got lots of people here. Eric Dale was here. I lost him here in the chat. I'll find him in a second. Retro. He's up here. We're all excited about this news right now. Let's talk some grown men. Let's talk about grown men wrestling. That's the NWA. That's what they offer. If you like Domino's, I mean, hey, listen, I won't yuck your yum, but it is the worst pizza on the planet. So, but you are allowed here for it. Shrek is here. Billy needs Scooby on the team, says Retro. Yeah. So, I mean, what do we want to talk about? We said for this week, there's so much news coming out of, the NWA. It has really become the front and center in a way that it hasn't in some time. And, Billy has been making the rounds throughout the online websites that matter. He's been going on some podcasts, and we thought, well, we'll take a look at some of them and other ones that have been just talking about him as well, and about the NWA, that haven't been doing that for a very long time. And this is only going to make them explode even more. Now, I don't know if Big Chris Dog is here yet, but he's got some criticism over the CW. But I asked Dave, and maybe you know more about this than I do. I asked recently, just as a non-TV entity, do people really watch cable anymore? Like, I haven't had it in years in favor of streaming services. And the answer I got back, I think Gary Horn was part of that answer, was it's the reason that it's still so important to have a program on cable television or on television is because that's where the advertisers still look as the place where they're going to get the most exposure and the most money. So that's why it's important, not necessarily to be on a streaming service, but to be on a place like CW.
Oh, it's one of these things that if you look at a normal half-hour TV show, roughly about 21 to 22 minutes is the show. The rest of the time is advertising. You double that for an hour show. So about 45 minutes of an hour is the show itself. That's what the NWA has been giving us off and on for the last year and a half or so.
Yeah.
So they've been, I don't know if they've been conditioning us to that, but if this goes the way it's supposed to and does go on CW, you'll have your regular TV show, your intro, maybe your first match, or, hey, this is what's coming up. and by 10 minutes in, you're on your first break. So it's actually set up that we'll be getting the same amount of wrestling in that hour time that we've been used to all along for the last year or so. So it's one of those things of they just need to get into the programming mind of this is a wrestling show, but we're telling a story. Let's go with storyline A this time, next week B, next week C, then the fourth week we round everything up and we retell all these stories with highlights. So it's one of these things of it is wrestling, it is quote unquote a sporting show, but it's also it's telling a story. It's just like your favorite drama, if you like Law and Order, if you like Friends, if you like Big Bang Theory, it tells a story and it'll refer to things in the past, not all the time, but every once in a while they'll make mention of something and you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that the first season. So it's one of these things of it's wrestling, but it's also a TV show. So they need to make it the best of both worlds, where you don't take away all the sporting, but you don't take away all the storyline as well. It's not just wrestler A versus wrestler B for no reason. There's a reason they're doing this.
Right.
And I'm hoping that if they're able to do this the way either Impact does, that it will be monthly tapings and that they can hopefully adjust on the fly, that if something is working, keep going with it. If it's not working, put it to the back of the line and try something new.
Yeah. In the way that the current TV, well, not even current, for the last 20, 30 years that TV wrestling, at least from the bigs, has seemingly been done, that just drives me crazy, is when you'll get entrances that take 9 minutes in the opening of a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll get in the ring and they'll lock up. We got to go to break, fans. Well, like the NWA has an opening right now that takes about 1 minute for both guys to come in, right?
Yeah.
And you get right to the action. I wanted to point out what the boss said. I'm waiting for the official announcement. These are still rumors, and they are. They're being reported, as we said at the top of the show, by House of Wrestling and AFN, I think it's called. But they are not official announcements from the NWA as we sit here and speak. We should probably monitor Twitter right now, since it might be broken for them. Jay's feeling trepidation. This is the most hilarious thing, and Jay's a funny guy. Can we talk about how I'm friends with the Raw GM and the SmackDown GM hates me? I mean, it's true. It's true. There's nothing untrue in that statement. Hey, Big Chris Dog is here. The villain has entered the chat. We got to get Chris one of those those plague doctor masks and a top hat and call him the villain. Chris is all over it in the Discord. There's 81 new messages since I last looked at it in 20 minutes ago. Mike said, I'll seriously laugh if the NWA within 1 year does better TV viewings than OVW. I mean, we wish everybody success, of course, but Jeremy, who we're waiting for hopefully to come later, he's working late tonight. Boss is making him do inventory. Remember those days. On break, my 2 cents about the NWA TV deal. If they did sign with the CW, that's better than a cable deal. The CW is a broadcast channel that's available via antenna. But I'm with Jay Cal. I'll say more once it's made official. I think it's exciting and timely for our broadcast tonight. But again, I guess I would agree with them. We have to temper that with facts and see what comes out over the next 24, 48 hours. But it doesn't stop, Dave, some of the stuff that has had William Patrick Corgan going around the websites and the podcast recently.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jay, get him on the podcast. You got to do a one-on-one with WPC boss. And one of them here, I'm gonna pull up my side, was an interview he did with Tommy Milagro of Slam. Tommy was down there at NWA 75. I know that. And he did talk about a couple of things there. One of them, which had a bit of a spark to it between him and Dave Meltzer. So, in his comments to Slam Wrestling back on the 13th, as he was talking, he mentioned his favorite match of night one was the favorite NWA offering anyway, was the best for the best match was Camille versus Markova. Certainly a good match for both of them. But night two, he felt that it was Tyrus versus EC3 for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And I think if you took that comment on face value without any more explanation, you might scoff. But he had this to say. Tyrus, he's the champ versus EC3. Their history, of course, even going back to TNA, but even further back to WWE developmental, Corgan said, sometimes when you put people in a ring who are very tight as people, they're going to tell a very different story because the heart is there and there's real love and deep affection between the two men, and they wanted to go out and tell a good story. Tyrus wanted to tell a story where he went out and he shielded and he did for the people that complained that it wasn't a 5-star Meltzer jerk-off match, right? Corgan continued. To me, it's a very compelling story. I'll read the rest in a second. But Dave Meltzer responded on Twitter to a Greg Oliver tweet where Greg had said, who is Slam Wrestling? He's the head of Slam Wrestling. He said that Slam had talked to Billy Corgan about the state of the NWA, wrestling and smashing pumpkins on his tour and mixing them together, and his dislike of talent who go out and do a Meltzer jerk-off match. Dave Meltzer wrote, Dave, poor Billy doesn't like Omega versus Osprey, Usos versus Owens and Zayn, Gunther versus Drew versus Sheamus, Danielson versus Zach, MJF versus Danielson, FTR versus Juice and Jay. Not only that, dislikes the talent in those matches. Pretty sure he'd die and go to heaven if he could get one of them on his shows. Did you, when you heard the original comment or read the original comment and then saw this as a response, did you think that Meltzer was on the right track or was he way off base?
Well, I mean, Meltzer is in it for himself, first off. It's one of these things, I can fantasy book all I want. I'm not involved with the wrestling business. Meltzer is, but he isn't. He doesn't know what it takes to actually, I believe, put on a 5-star match. It's his opinion. I can think that sushi is the best food ever. But if you've never had sushi, you have no idea what it is. You may think peanut butter and jelly is the best thing ever. It's all someone's opinion. A 5-star match is what you like. Does it tell a story? Do you really want it to tell a story? How many 5-star matches did Harley Race have and he didn't do anything but a flying headbutt?
Yeah.
He didn't do highfalutin moves. It's one of these things. Did Hulk Hogan, how many 5-star matches did he have? It's the way you present things. Not everything the same. And to say somebody has a 5-star match because they do it this way and someone else doesn't have it because they do it another way, it's all someone's opinion. There are no black and white. It's all a gray area.
Yeah, it's funny because when I read the comment from Billy talking to Slam and saying, you know, and I'm going to let Mr. Corgan speak for himself through the tweet that he responded to it in that through the NWA in a second. But I read that and I thought, like, he's saying, I'm trying to give two people who really have heart for this business and passion and want to work together the ability to tell a story. And it's not just everything is a 5-star Meltzer jerk off match. And I didn't get, like, I guess there's a slight, nugget of disrespect there, but I don't think it was meant at all. He's just saying not everybody needs a spot fest that really thrills Dave Meltzer in his opinion. So for when I read the response from Meltzer, he dislikes the talent in those matches. I thought he'd said nothing of the sort. Like, that's not what I got out of this. And so anyway, in response to Meltzer's comment, the NWA said, here's some comments from WPC. Dave Meltzer has most certainly built his brand off the efforts of others. But unlike the great wrestlers he mentions, all of whom I respect and haven't said a disparaging word against, though he implies I have, Dave positions himself as the expert, capital letters, on what is and what isn't worthy of a fan's attention, as opposed to those who actually wrestle. Or, for example, perhaps run a professional wrestling company 365 days a year. The NWA has a pay-per-view coming up on October 28th called Sawin. That's what matters. Fans arguing over worthy or unworthy champions, that's what matters and is the lifeblood of this business. Restoring the legacy and drawing ability of a company that's 75 years old, well, that matters a lot. Yet all must bow to the opinion of one. No, thank you, sir. Wrestling fans all over the world deserve better than that. What did you think of that one, Dave?
I mean, it's Billy is just stating what he believes, and he owns the NWA. He runs the NWA, so basically, it's on his back. I believe what he was saying is, like, yeah, he's letting these guys go out there, that they're going to tell a story, and it goes all the way back to their time in Florida Championship Wrestling before they made it to the WWF/WWE. It's one of these things. There's a lot of history amongst all wrestling, whether it be the wrestlers themselves, the fans, the owners. It's all subjective. It's what you like, others may not like. That's why there's different styles of wrestling. If it all went back to the Karl Gotch and Lou Thez, a lot of today's wrestling would be boring, in my opinion, as to what you actually see. But for each his own. People like different things.
Right.
That's why there's more than one type of cola. There's a Coke, then there's a Pepsi. One's sweeter than the other. You like what you like, and you dislike what you dislike. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like the same thing as everyone else. Right. That's why I love that people are able to make a choice for themselves. I don't like everything I see in the NWA, but I like enough to continue watching.
Right. And it's like what Brian Zane says, right? The influencer Brian Zane, Wrestling with Regret. Like what you like, don't be a dick. Right?
Yep.
But Big Chris Dog, the villain, the self-appointed villain, asked for the question of the host: would people care about this news? And I believe he put this in. We were talking about the TV deal. If Tyrus was still champ, 100% for me. The Tyrus experiment was a fail in the end because of the inability to perform in ring. Still worth the effort, and I don't know that I'll ever see evidence to suggest otherwise. What do you think, Dave? Would it still matter to you?
I mean, it's one of these things that, I mean, I may like the NWA. I don't like all the wrestlers that are in the NWA, but I like the organization. It's like if you have a favorite baseball player as opposed to a baseball team. It's one of these things of you cheer for who you cheer for, and you basically just say, well, if I don't like something, I'm not going to watch it. But you don't turn it off completely. You may mute the TV, but it's one of these things. It's almost a tribalistic type of atmosphere where, oh, well, I like the WWE, but I don't like AEW. Well, me, I just like wrestling. I try to find the best in any and all wrestling that I watch. If I don't like it, after a couple times of watching it, I won't watch it again.
Right. You know what's weird is that I just had a hankering for a ham sandwich. It's gone now. Chris had said, I think this is a very intelligent comment. It's funny, Billy used the Meltzer stuff for attention and it worked. Bravo.
Yep.
Yes. We're talking about it right now. It's on Twitter back and forth. Meltzer's a big name, whether you like him or not. And he is using exactly what is out there for him to use. I think Billy knows how to play this game as a rock star and a promoter. Mm-hmm. And I would agree. Bravo. I don't know if that was sarcastic or not, Chris, but because Chris does say stop focusing on what Meltzer says and focus on promoting your pay-per-view, which has almost zero buzz. Well, I agree that the pay-per-view is in a hard place right now. But we'll get to that one a little bit later. But I think it's important that he focused on what Meltzer, put out there. I think it's important that he used that as a place to put his opinion and his product forward when it was thrown in front of him. And I did a very informal look around myself today. Fightful will tell you when a match is added for the NWA. So about once or twice a month, there'll be an NWA. If you go to Fightful and you put NWA into the search bar, you'll see them. They'll just put stuff in every once in a while. Since the news about the territory system and the TV deal has come up, there have been 8 to 9 articles in the last week on the NWA. And that's a significant change for the NWA. You hungry, Dave? Are you hungry?
Yeah.
Someone bring me a ham sandwich. It's the boss, everybody. How you doing, Jay?
That's a great introduction. Thank you, sir. Hey, I wanted to chime in when you guys brought up Meltzer. And the reason why is because at various parts of my wrestling journey, I have been a journalist. It's been my quote-unquote job. Opinion.
Oh, we lost him. There he is. He's back.
To give my opinion of what I think wrestling should be. It's been my responsibility as the editor of SoCal Uncensored to direct traffic to people who I want to show you what I think the best pro wrestling is. So I kind of can see what Dave Meltzer says. There's a whole subculture of people who just hang on every single word that Dave Meltzer says. With that being said, we all know that Billy didn't say anything negative about the talent, and it was all directed at Meltzer.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of silly for Meltzer to even have this back and forth with Billy, and it just kind of resonates that how insecure he is as a author and as a voice in the wrestling community, that he is so bothered by someone saying something that doesn't celebrate him as a voice in the community. When I wrote for SoCal Uncensored, oftentimes people criticized what my interest in wrestling were. I mean, heck, I was watching Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and saying how great it is. And in the same, 30-minute radius, there's Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which many consider to be the top wrestling in the state. It's all a crapshoot. It's all personal preference, like Scoop was saying, some people like peanut butter, some people like filet mignon. Nobody's wrong. It's all personal preference. And when it comes to sports, wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, everything is subjective. What I find to be an excellent wrestling match, maybe you wouldn't agree with. So I don't know. I just wanted to jump on and say that. I don't know if that helped anything or if it mattered, but
And
I felt like saying it.
I think it also helps to clarify too, just what you said. Corgan's comment was about, it's a Dave Meltzer 5-star, jerk off match, right? And that's a shot at Meltzer. It's not a shot, just like you said. No one's shooting at anybody other than an offhanded comment about a guy he clearly doesn't care for the opinion of. And it worked to the comments here. Actually, Eric just put this up. Controversy creates cash.
That's right.
That's an Eric Bischoff quote.
Tit for tit,
Yeah. And I thought it was smart. And I just thought it was really interesting that websites like Fightful are all of a sudden reporting on a company they haven't really reported on before.
I kind of have, I don't want to say heat, right? But Sean Ross, what's his name?
Sean Ross.
Yeah. So him and Denise Salcedo both said at the beginning of the year that this would be the year that the NWA would be its death knell. And of course, as someone who's been a longtime NWA fan, it's not new information. But God damn it, do I get so frustrated with the 180 approach to their reporting that all of a sudden, this is newsworthy. Let's talk about the NWA. No, friends. You just said that this was a dead promotion. You just basically casted it into the negaverse, and now you're reporting on it as it's newsworthy. I just feel that's very hypocritical. And of course, that's what news is, anyways. But I just feel like, just shut up. Don't talk about it. Let someone else report on it.
Would you feel better if Salcedo or Sapp went, all right, I gotta eat a shit sandwich right now?
Yep. 100%.
Because I'm going to report how good this is and how positive this is, and we used to say it would die.
Look, if Denise or Sean were both to say, wow, if they do their year-end review for 2023 and said, well, we were off on this one because look at the little engine that could kept going, then I would feel much better about it. If they ate a little bit of crow, humbled themselves. I feel like so many people on the internet are so willing to say things, and then when they're wrong, they don't apologize. You know what I mean? Like there's no I'm sorry. There's like, oh, I was wrong on that one. Oh, my opinion was off based on this. It's just I'll say it. And I'll fucking live with it. Pardon my French. Demonetized Jay. I'll live with it. And if no one calls me on my S, then I'll keep saying it until it's not viable. Mm-hmm. You proclaim the brand dead. Why are you still reporting on a dead brand? That seems very hypocritical.
Yeah, they've been saying we've been dead since like 83. So.
It's funny. It's all revisionist history because people will come out and say, oh, yeah, the NWA hasn't been important since 86. And then you'll say, well, what about when they were invading Raw? What about when they came to Raw in 99? And they're like, oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, before that, though, there was nothing really going on. You go, yeah, but, NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions and New Japan and EMLL, all that happened in 93. So when you proclaim the NWA was dead in 86, you're basically giving away about 7 years of great wrestling content. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're right. What about the time when TNA was producing, several NWA World Title matches monthly? Don't worry about that. Oh, what about the time when Adam Pearce was defending that title in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in Mexico?
Go ahead.
I saw What's that?
I'm not putting it up, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I just saw the finger. I thought I was getting waved off. I thought I was getting
the big hook. No,
I thought the hook was pulling me off. I mean, Jesus Christ! Rob Conway was defending the 10 pounds of gold at the Wrestle Kingdom 3 just a few years ago.
Yeah,
but they still tell me that this brand has been dead. Now, Billy Corgan is the one that brought the NWA back to resurgence. It was down when he bought it. but it was never out.
It's true. It's 100% true. You know, and since you're here, like take Corgan out of it, take Meltzer out of it, and let Fightful or whoever, you know, Slam report on their own. Slam's been reporting on the NWA for at least a couple of years now. Well, I've been reading it. Actually, more than that. It's got to be 5 since like they've been going down and they've been sitting with talent and they've been doing interviews. They're friends of the product, fans of the product anyway. Jim Cornette used to work at the product, ended up quitting instead of apologizing back in the Lagana days for making a joke that was, you know, depending on your sensibility, I suppose some people might have thought was insensitive. And they said, apologize and it'll be fine. And Jim said, yeah, sit and spin, guys. And he left.
Sorry.
Right? So, and he has talked about it once or twice, but basically he just kind of went dead air on the NWA. After a short period of time, he didn't care anymore. He and Brian Last on both of their programs don't talk about the NWA unless it's of old and they're talking about what it was like for a champ like Flair to, you know, to work the territories. On the drive-through, this past drive-through, after I don't know how, like, listen, we're not Jim Cornette drive-through on. No one is when it comes to, you know, the impact or anything or number of people watching, but he goes through 17 minutes every show and there's no wrestling. And I am fast forwarding it to the very first wrestling comment where they start off. And Brian Last says, have you heard about the NWA and the territory system coming back? That's the first thing. I think it's significant that the first thing they talk about is the return of the territories. And Dave and I were talking about this just off the air before we got on, that, you know, I think Dave, you've heard it, right? The Cornette does not shit on it. He goes, you know, it's not a territory system, which is what we've all been saying. We get it.
What he says is 100% truth. I mean, if anyone listens to it, look, the territory in a sense of what they had back in the 80s and 70s, there hasn't been that since the 80s and 70s. Let's be completely honest. The day that Grand Olympic closed, you know, the day that a lot of these territories got swallowed up by the WWE, that was it.
Yep.
And there is no area, no wrestling promotion outside of the WWE and AEW, and to a lesser extent, you know, Impact, that are running multiple house shows or multiple wrestling shows in a month or in a week.
Yeah.
You know, for example, look, my pal David Marquez. I love David Marquez. Mm-hmm. He had at one point a wrestling show in Arizona, a wrestling show in Atlanta, and a wrestling show in LA. Now that was probably the closest thing in the modern era to an actual like circuit, right? Like an actual territory. If you went with the United Wrestling Network, you had those 3 spots. Now it's LA to a lesser extent because they've been on hiatus. Yeah. Derby City and Memphis. But even still with that, it's not the same. It's not a territory. It's more like a circuit. And even with when you look at the NWA territories of pre-Billy Corgan, you know, most of those guys run once a month.
Right.
You know, let's see what Exodus Pro does, right? Let's give them a fair chance, but I wouldn't be shocked if they run every 2 to 3 months. Now, maybe they run monthly. That's great. If they run monthly, that's great. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 to 3 months. And when you look at who potentially is out there that would make sense to be partnering with the NWA, some of these promotions don't run even monthly.
And I know it's not the point that I was originally trying to make. That like,
sorry,
no, not yours. No. That it's not the territory system. Dave and I were talking. Dave, explain what you were saying before. It's not the territory system, but it's better.
It's basically, I mean, I'm looking at it as it's a territory system that is affiliated with the NWA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Minor, it's like a major league team with league teams that they can pull from or send players to either help train them or work with them. It's one of these things. It's basically the way they're saying territory. It's a place for the NWA to show up every once in a while or have their belts defended. And in doing so, it's all part of a big collaboration. It's a big family, but it's on levels. And sometimes you move up, sometimes you move down. But it's all working together to make everything work better.
I wouldn't be surprised if JCP, if they were to join, say, right, that if they went, hey, Ethan, you want, can we send you AJ for 60 days and, you send us down fodder or whatever? And like, even across the board, it makes sense, right?
I think, and I agree with you, Scoop. I think I go back and forth, right? Because the way you describe it, I'm good. I like that. It's almost like a developmental for the NWA. It gives opportunity to grow new talent, which they desperately need. Because look, Billy isn't going to be able to compete with AEW. He's not going to be able to compete with the WWE when it comes to signing free agent talent. He isn't going to have that money to just go out and sign everybody. He's not going to get the Adam Copelands of the world. He's not going to get the MJFs when that contract expires. Hell, he probably won't be able to get CM Punk. But if he can sit there and find the next Kerry Morton, and if he can find the next Kenzie Page, and if he can find the next Thrillbilly Silas Mason, then that's where he's going to succeed. And locking these guys up young to long-term deals is going to help grow the NWA. So 100% I agree. Plus the benefit of, hey, we're going to send you our champion. Obviously, Exodus Pro and currently EC3 being the world champion, there's not a lot of give and take there because, sure, he's going to defend the title there, of course, but maybe now you'll have the tag champions there. Maybe you'll have the national champion there. Thrillbilly Silas Mason is currently the JCP heavyweight champion as well. So having him defend, have him being a part of what they're doing in Exodus Pro, I think is important and meaningful. And it's crazy because you mentioned JCP, and that's the most obvious answer. But like in Tennessee alone, there's like 4 promotions I think would make a lot of sense working with the NWA. Now, it's not going to happen. I don't think there's going to be 4 pieces of pie in one area, but right. Yeah, I think it's a good move. And kind of going back to what this originally started off as was, Jim Cornette did not shit on the NWA when he has had that opportunity to do that so many more times. And although he wasn't like super positive about it, he also wasn't super negative about it either.
Right.
He didn't poo-poo the NWA. He didn't say anything negative about Billy. They might have laughed at the name. They might have laughed at a few, hey, this isn't a real territory, but that's Jim Cornette. That's always going to be Jim Cornette. But the fact that he didn't come out and say, what kind of goddamn stupid idea is this? That's a positive.
It's funny. Every time I think that Cornette has gone off the deep end about Meltzer one too many times, Meltzer does something, says something, and makes me go, well, I guess Corny's still a little rational. There's more. I'm not a Cornette guy. Right. My crew is, both DKM and Jaden love Cornette's commentary. But a lot of the things he says is there's truth to it. You can't argue it. It's like, yeah, that's accurate. And then some of it's just like, come on, man, you're the old man yelling at the clouds. You're the DKM. Right. I feel like the takeaway as we await the NWA or WPC to go, yes, it is the CW, or no, it isn't, and this is what it is that the TV deal, the territory system, whether you want air quotes around that or not, is not, and Corgan going around to the different podcasts, get him on the show, Jay, or the different websites.
I reached out to EC3 and I got an at best maybe a 5-minute blip on the show, which I'll take.
It.
Yeah. Once he knows how much fun it is to be on the podcast, he'll come back and do the podcast.
That's right. I mean, who's better positioned than you to have a conversation with either one of those guys? But as Billy makes the rounds, and as even where he isn't making the rounds, they're talking about the product that he is the president of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that he's making TV news and territory news. This is front and center. All eyes back to the NWA.
And think about we just got done with the 75th anniversary show. I say just, but 2 months ago, there was nowhere near the buzz you're hearing about the NWA now.
Right.
EC3 becoming world champion, super positive move that seemed to resonate with a lot of the NWA faithful, right? I'll say it like that. A lot of people were just happy to see Tyrus gone, so that's also a net positive too. The newer production on Power, and it's like whoever designed Power, and it hit me today. Go back and watch the Primetime Live pay-per-views if you can.
Same color.
Yeah, they basically stole the whole thing, but that's good for them. It was a great look. Primetime Live was beautiful. I'm glad Power borrowed some of those features of it, but there was positivity about it, and even a podcast that's been covering the NWA for 14 years, and at times has been super positive, and at other times has been super critical. I'm finding it harder to be more critical about what is happening on Power. Is it perfect? No. But some of the stuff that I used to complain about, it's getting cleaned up.
Eddie Murphy used to have a joke about that when you crawl through the desert, when when someone gives you a saltine cracker, you're going to go, that is the most delicious saltine cracker I've ever had. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with my saltine cracker. Like, it hasn't really been a desert. It's been just steadily coming back, not on a sharp slope after the pandemic, but
maybe not a saltine, maybe it's like a Lunchable, right? Because there's a little bit of meat to that. There's a little bit of cheese to that.
That's right.
Is it a steak from Morton's? No. But it's something that's got a little bit of flavor to it. It's finding its path. And that's something that I felt like for a while their Power seemed to be like a rudderless ship. 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
And Jeremy's not here yet. We don't know if he's going to make it home or not, but it's not just the dirt sheets or just the NWA making the rounds around the different sites that is grabbing attention. Like if you look at what the UWN, because Dave Marquez, your friend, Mr. Marquez, is a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
And what he produced this past weekend was from the vault 3 NWA title matches on the UWN. I mean, it's just smart.
Can I tell you the idea that I pitched him a couple of years ago?
Sure.
Right after the falling out between him and the NWA, I was like, you should just take all of your old NWA programming and put it either right. Okay.
Head to head.
No, we'll see. That's the thing. Primetime Live was was the only place to see NWA wrestling during the pandemic, right? They pulled everything off of YouTube. They stopped producing new content. I told them, you know what? You go Tuesday 6:05 and just start running your NWA matches. They can't come after you. You own that footage. It's yours. And all those shows were called the NWA Showcase. Fuck, why not? Would it confuse the fan base? Absolutely. Would it have caused people to be frustrated and angry? Probably, but you could have cashed in on that desire to see NWA content. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're right. It's I don't know. It's funny, man. It's hard. It's almost hard in a way, having done this for just like a very short period of time, like Dave and Jeremy and I for like a year and a half or something. You've been like this with the NWA for 15 years, right? Isn't it 15 now?
The podcast is the math was wrong earlier. The podcast is 14 years. We started in 2008, not 2007. Right. So, but everything else is pretty accurate. The website started in 2007.
Right. But it's weird for me just to go, wow, I get to be excited and happy about, like, more than one nugget of something that I like, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a few years watching the NWA since that happened for me.
When
Hard
when
not
we
to be happy. Yeah.
when we started doing the podcast, there wasn't just a singular promotion. There was like dozens of promotions. In fact, that was a tagline that we blog about the entirety of the NWA. And so, like, there was on and off a show being produced by Dave Marquez. There was the NWA Pro Wrestling Showcase, which was mostly his show, and then later it became the NWA Wrestling Showcase,
Right.
which was talents from across the NWA. But that wasn't something that was a regular thing, right? Like, that was on and off. Whereas Power has dominated what the NWA has done for the last 4 years, right? And it's like you said, there's more to be excited about than just Power. And back in when we did the podcast, like, we didn't just cover what was happening in Hollywood, we were talking about everything. And now I feel like it's cool because there's going to be this opportunity when the territories are running out. You're like, oh, this is what's happening with EC3's company. This is what's happening, JCP perhaps. Yeah. And it gives you more to talk about than just the television program.
I feel like if there's one thing that is a downer about this whole explosion of eyes coming on the NWA, and I'm going to ask you this, Dave, because I think you're going, it's Samhain. And we'll talk about Samhain in a bit and the actual matches. Are you excited about it? Either one of you guys excited about that pay-per-view? If all eyes are coming and they're like, great, let's go see what they got.
It's I'm not going to say I'm excited or not excited. I'm just it intrigues me. It intrigues me in what we're hearing now, what we'll see, and where it's heading. That this may be a chance for some people to make some noise. But it's one of these things, the storylines, to me, they aren't hitting. But there's been very few pay-per-views that have really been quote-unquote stinkers.
Right, that's true. Back for the Attack?
2 or maybe 3 that haven't.
3-1-2. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of these things of sometimes you got to try new things. If they work, they work. If not, put them on the back shelf and go, well, next time we don't do a Halloween themed pay-per-view. We do it either early in October or we do it in November, or we make it something else themed besides Halloween or spooky or whatever. That maybe we do something in January ringing in the new year rather than in the other holidays. Maybe we do something around the 4th of July and do something all-American. Maybe we do this. It's you figure out while you're going, and I mean, you still have your big events. You still have your Crockett Cup. You still have your anniversary shows. You still have hard times, but you figure out what works best for you. And it's almost like when the WWF did those in your houses.
Yeah.
They weren't full blown the biggest and best pay-per-views, but they were there to keep the storylines going.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things of, yeah, maybe that's what you do. And if one of the quote unquote territories is Cleveland, okay, it's Exodus Pro. But maybe down in Florida, there's 2 places down there. There's one in Sarasota, and then there's one in Boca Raton. That every 3rd month, you go someplace else. And it doesn't be something major, But your big ones like Crockett Cup have that in the Crockett area. Your anniversary show, if you want to keep it in St. Louis, do that. But it's one of these things of figure out what works and what doesn't and make adjustments as you go. You're not going to hit 1,000 every time.
I was real
strike out and you just move on and try your best on the next at bat.
I was surprised, like over in because there's so many Halloween themed pay-per-views in history. I was surprised when MLW or Colt Bauer put that, what the hell that you went to it, David? Slaughterhouse, that electrified cage. Because like that thing that Abdullah the Butcher was put in the, in the chair. And they did that match, Chamber of Horrors. That's it. They did that match. And that's one of the worst matches I've ever seen. And MLW said, hey, let's go do that.
I think that was paying homage to Dusty.
I guess.
But I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time. I do appreciate you guys letting me barge in like I own the place. But I did want to say this. Dave Scoob, you hit it on the head once again. The whole In Your House. I mean, look, the NWA has put out a bunch of pay-per-views in the last 2 years that I don't think we're going to see again, right? I don't think we're going to see another Nuff Said pay-per-view. I don't think we're going to see another Always Ready pay-per-view. And we might not ever see another Samhain pay-per-view, depending on how well it does, right? The staples, Crockett Cup, Anniversary Show, Hard Times. Let's stick to those core three and build something good around it. I'm all right with that. But I have a fall pay-per-view, and that's called NWA Falling Down. Come on, let's go.
I'm in.
All right. I'm going to take off, gentlemen. Have a good rest of the show, and see you guys tomorrow.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
See you, buddy. This was...
I'm trying to remove myself. Sorry.
Oh, you want me to do that? Hey, okay. He's gone. EC3 announcing a chair match for the Vader Matt. Oh, yes. Let me get my wallet. That's what I was laughing at earlier. Mike, my pulmonary embolism was for 2 days more thrilling and suspenseful than what the NWA is presenting Samhain as. Ooh. Look, hey, listen, Fuzzy is an unabashed mark, which is why, he's one of my favorite people that I met at 75. Because like completely unabashed, just wants it to have fun. Like his permanent emoticon is popcorn. Like just sit me down in front of it and let me enjoy it, and I love it. It's an amazing. There's no ounce of spite in John Ceramic. He does mention my biggest worry is that they do light bulbs or thumbtacks or something stupid. Dave, the King of the Death Match is showing up.
Yeah, but I did a little research. They can get violent, but blood is basically only the hard way. It's not a quote unquote blood state. That they do have medical conditions and medical sanctions that they have to follow. So it's one of those things that if you've ever gone to, whether it be wrestling, boxing, any type of events that have a ambulance on standby, that's due to state regulations that there has to be medical personnel there. If there's any blood, they can shut down the event. And I'm hoping that it's one of these things that they just let bygones be bygones, put on the best show that they can at Samhain. And if it works, thank God it's only once a year. If it doesn't work, thank God it's only once a year that Halloween comes around. They can find something else to do.
Yeah, that's right. Mike says, Scooby, that's why I'm not thrilled about this state athletic commission. It's state athletic commission ran.
Yeah.
I read and write, Mike. I understand. I know what he says. I had to translate slightly. They're going to have a fine tooth comb on the NWA for Samhain. Well, good enough opportunity as any. We've talked about the TV, the territory. All the eyes are on the company right now. Like, it's getting more press than it's gotten in a long, long time. Let's talk about Samhain, guys. And look, I'll be honest. As positive and excited I am for this potential CW deal, if that's what it is, or just the TV that's coming as WPC's promised, or the territory system. I am very excited. Dave, we got to tell Jay next time he comes in. By the way, he's got to call us to see what we're wearing before he gets on the show. I mean, does he even go here?
Yeah.
Is one of the things that detracts from that, as I mentioned earlier, is the lineup for Samhain. I'm not super excited by it, and I hope that I don't speak for everybody, but I had it. There we go. October 28th, 7 p.m. From Cleveland on Fight TV. NWA presents Samhain, which they have billed as the most violent pay-per-view in the history of the National Wrestling Alliance. That's a big, big claim. And we don't have a lot of clarity with just 2 weeks left before it. We do know, as we mentioned, the King of the Death match will be in the house. Matt Cardona will be there. And I'm not trying to lead with the stuff that I am not interested in. I'm just going in the general order I think the card will more or less flow in. You've got Brady Pierce versus Rush Freeman, excuse me. Wow. With Rolando Freeman as a special guest referee. Loser leaves the NWA. That is mildly intriguing to me because loser leaves the NWA. And, while the Discord's hopping, I haven't heard a ton about which one of those that might be. Any interest in this match?
Not really, but I'm just, whatever happens with this match, it will hopefully wrap up this storyline, and we'll be able to move on. I don't know where they're going. And I mean, this is one of the least important storylines that I would be messing with if I were the NWA.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, here's one that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is Samantha Starr versus Missa Kate versus Tiffany Neves versus Celeste. And Celeste I've seen once, I believe. And Tiffany Neves I've never seen. But Dave, this is for the number one contender to the Women's World Championship match, which includes someone who I don't believe has wrestled in the NWA before, in Tiffany, unless I've forgotten her.
No.
And Celeste, who I think wrestled once.
Yeah. Celeste has wrestled once. Tiffany is OVW Women's Champion.
Right.
And she also wrestles for Exodus Pro. So that's a tie-in. And it's one of these things that it's a match that they're doing to hopefully bring the Burke up to Exodus Pro at the next quote-unquote Exodus Pro NWA event.
Right. Jay is just saying what you said. Celeste and Tiffany wrestled at Exodus Pro. Tiffany's the OVW and the Mission Pro Women's Champion. Did not know that part before you guys told me. But still, can't really see why the winner would get a shot at Kenzie, other than that the booking has not been built up to the way it should be. We get what I believe will be, and we got to work with Jay and Jaden and DKM on this one to get together and make predictions. But I believe right now this will be the only title change on the show. Talos and Daisy Kill versus Odinson and Kratos for the U.S. Tag Team Championship. Their sole interactions have kind of been staring at each other in the ring so far. So it's sort of a basic build up, and I'm not super excited about it, but I think circumstances around the country gentleman changed, and this it is what it is right now. What do you think?
I mean, it's one of these things that it's the lower tier tag belts. It's the U.S. titles. So, I mean, hot shot them around and build up more teams to flip-flop, to go back and forth between the U.S. and the world titles. So give it to the Immortals, let them hold it for a couple. Someone comes in, beats them, Immortals move up and go after the world titles. It's all a building process, and because you can't have Blunt Force Trauma versus Murnochs for the next year. If that's all they have, they're in trouble.
I agree. Well, speaking of tag trouble, Dave, I know you're going to talk about this in just a few minutes, but we got the Southern Six in AT and Kerry Morton taking on, they don't have a proper poster for it yet, the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, the Headbangers, Dave. It's the Headbangers. And I don't know what the special stipulation here is, but, or do I? Did I write it down? Nope. They're just facing the Headbangers.
They're just there. I really have no idea why. All I can really think of is they're bringing in an experienced tag team to work with these younger tag teams to raise them up. That basically, I mean, the Headbangers, Thrasher and Mosh, they're good wrestlers despite what their gimmick is. I didn't mind their gimmick back in the day, but it's one of those here, there, anywhere. Okay, if they're good basic wrestlers, they're like the brothers of Construction. I may not like the gimmick, but they're good wrestlers.
Right.
That if they can work with other wrestlers to make them look even better, that's great. I'm surprised they're able to use the name, but I guess it's one of those things that WWF and E gave up a long time ago. I believe the guys are quote unquote ambassadors for WWE, but they're not tied to not being able to use that gimmick. I don't know where they're going. I'll discuss it a little more on the fantasy booking, but I mean, you look at it, and I mean, the Headbangers are guys that are about 250, 6'2", 6'3", roughly. They're decent guys. Whereas Southern Six, they're both under 6 foot and barely 200 pounds, if that. So it's one of those things of it's going to be a little hokey, but we'll see what happens.
But Dave, they're probably the same age or near the same age as you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as much as I'm sure that you and I in our own rights have had a scrap or two in our day, if we go up against a couple of guys who are smaller and lighter and faster and stronger, like presumably the presentation of this would be, we'd be wiped on the floor.
Yep.
It's just the way it is, right? I don't look at this as anything more, although Jay did point out NWA, former NWA World Tag Team Champions, like a million years ago. But that is a point. Like I don't see this as a fan as anything more than, hey, there they are coming to the ring. I'm going to use the washroom and get something to eat. I'll be back in a sec. Like it's just I know who's going over and I know what this is.
I mean, it's basically building up the Southern Six using I'm not going to say well-known team, but a team that is known. That if you watched the WF, WWE in the last 25 years, yeah, you may have heard of them or seen them on a special here or there. They're not big by means, but they were in the big leagues at one time.
I'll tell you, if one of them comes dressed as beaver cleavage, all is forgiven. Mike put this up earlier. Southern Six versus Headbangers. Yeah, this makes my loins moist. Must throw money at. This is all due to they know Billy and they're in that area. Nobody paid for the pay-per-view to see them. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, I don't want to hang the pay-per-view entirely on Freeman Pierce and the Women's World Contendership match and this, but because let's get to some of the stuff that's maybe a little more interesting and maybe does draw fans. La Rebellion with Vampiro against Brothers of Funstruction with Violent J. Don't know if this is a 6-man tag match yet. It smelt like one to me. Looks like it might be tag, but one of them after Power this week gets to pick your poison, right?
Yeah, who knows what story they'll try to tell. This is just one of those that I wish I could just snap my fingers and it'd be over with.
Yeah.
I like some of the wrestlers involved.
Yeah.
But it's just gone on too long, and there's, besides a personal story and a personal history amongst them, they haven't really told a real well-defined story of why this is happening.
No, and it would have been better if they had somehow used that story between Mecha Wolf and Yabo, I think, right?
Yeah.
About how it was when one was breaking in, how the other one helped them out, and that kind of would have given this some heart and interest for me.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I don't have a poster for it yet, but there is another one that was added this past week with Judas, Max, and according to Wikipedia, to be determined versus Gags, Sal, and another to be determined, and a 6-man tag match where basically if Gags and Sal lose, they got to come back and get back into the gimp box or whatever it is they're tied up into in Jim Mitchell's basement. And if they win, he has to bow down and say that there are no longer his subjugates, I think he called them.
Yeah.
Look, love Max the Impaler. No problem with Judas. I enjoyed Sal coming into the interview and then going, "Oh, hello, Sam," and being normal.
Yeah.
I'm taking meds. Yeah. It was an improvement. I don't care about this match, though. Speaking about what has been going on since the dawn of time, it's this feud.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one. Storyline just needs to be done. Whichever way they go, it just needs to be done. Let Sal and Gags go their own way and be jobbers to the stars, whatever. Both of those guys are very good wrestlers.
Yeah.
They can have younger talent. It just needs to be finished. But I did sort of pop for Sal behaving himself and not clapping, and I'm on my medication. I'm doing much better. Thank you.
And even his little bit, but it could wear off at any time later in the day.
It's like, okay, start clapping. Oh, nope. Can't.
It was fun. I like to see the Sal Renaro of old. I'm going to do this kind of returning because he was something else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. The Headbangers beat the Rock and Roll Express, the whole NWA invasion stuff, right?
Yep.
For the NWA World Tag Team titles. Let's go back to this. Because I'm going to watch this pay-per-view. I'm an NWA fan, but I'm just not thrilled by anything so far, including unfortunately, this. You got Kylie and Ella from Pretty Empowered, your World Tag Team Champions, defending against Natalia Markova and Natalia Markova Jr. Taylor Rising, who suddenly are the only talent left now. Especially if M95's no more. Any interest here?
I mean, it's building Pretty Empowered. You're building another team that's a makeshift team. It's just, in my eyes, I would basically farm out tag teams for the women's division and just bring in a couple different tag teams here and there for the tapings and work the best team out of the tapings into the next pay-per-view. Because, I mean, you really don't have a tag team division.
Right.
You have wrestlers, but you don't have a full division when you have to throw teams together.
Yeah, and there's ways out of it, storyline wise. Like, if it's not going to happen, if it's not in the cards, if it doesn't draw, whatever, have someone destroy the belts, and then there aren't any champions anymore. Like, I don't know. There's ways that you can get out of a title thing that just didn't work. Let me go back to the brand thing here. Here we go. Here, getting into some stuff where I think it's a little more interesting as the show goes along. BFT, versus Murnochs again for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. In a Knights of the Round table match. Don't know what that is. Maybe it's a table match where the table's round. I don't know. I wish they'd tell me. Are you looking forward to this one?
I like all the wrestlers involved. It's just this storyline seems like it's been going on forever when it's only been about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that if they're going to stretch it out, do it the right way. But in the end, Murnochs needs a win. That Aaron, all his interference will one day backfire and his team will lose and they'll walk away and need a new manager. Then Aaron will be basically left on his own to help someone else rise within the NWA as a manager. If he's not going to wrestle, he is the perfect manager to help grab someone and raise their stock in the NWA.
I think one of the guys that he'd be great in representing would be Colby Carino.
Yeah.
I like Colby as a heel. Like I like him a lot better as a heel.
Yep.
It's not that he can't talk. It's just he can't Joe Alonzo talk. That's for sure. But he is defending the NWA World Junior title against Alonzo. And by the way, I did say earlier one title change. I forgot about this one. I would say the title changes hands here. What do you think about what Joe's been doing on, they had that initial blast on social media that had some really funny, really cutting stuff and then seemed to get a little darker. I'm sure all approved on the other side, but what do you think of it?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that if it wasn't approved, they're really blurring the lines. But it's one of these things you have to make sure you don't overstep your boundaries. And it's one of these things, I've said it before, there's certain things that are, I'm not quite sure taboo, but there's things that you don't talk about, and that's politics, religion, and her. It's one of those things that you can step up to the line, just don't step over. You can insinuate, but don't say, oh, your wife or your girlfriend or your mom, or don't physically mention them. Make it so it's insinuated, but you're not physically saying that person's name or referring to them as a quote unquote, oh, your question mark, your other half, your better half, and not say your wife. it's one of those things of Joe Alonzo, I feel, can go very far in the business, but he's going to have some hits and misses. He's had more hits than misses as of now, but he has to figure out how far he can go and not go over the line.
Right. By the way, when we're talking just Colby, this is a really small thing. It's not just Colby who does it, but he does it as part of his entrance, and he does it consistently. And I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this. Again, just a little thing that sticks in my tiny little brain. He does this with the thumb across the throat, and that was a Benoit thing.
As a Benoit, yep.
And for obvious reasons, I feel like that makes me think of that. And it's not that my pretty little liberal heart is, hurt every time I see it. I just think it's kind of, if it makes you think of that, then maybe don't do that. And I wish he would stop doing that. It's like the same way, like they don't play Jimi Hendrix, Hey Joe on the radio. There's a reason for that. So anyway, I would just like to see that go away.
Yeah.
What else they got here? They got, after that one, we got 2 more matches, I guess. Right now, Ruthie J takes on Kenzie for the Women's World Championship. She cut a promo on Power, a timely promo to kind of build that match up. Kenzie and Pretty Empowered sort of did the same. I look at this very much like a Headbangers Southern Six match. I know where this is going to go. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's building up the undercard to hopefully later down the line have another chance. But it's one of these things that they need to rotate some talent in and out. And that's what they're doing. They're actually building up talent without having to give them a win. It's getting over without going over.
Right.
So I mean, it's one of these things of, okay, works good, went after them. Now we know that Ruthie J has had a dealing with Pretty Empowered. Okay, down the line, does she find a tag partner and go after the tag belts?
Right.
One of these times, something's going to hit and she's going to get a belt out of it. But it's all storyline, slowly but surely building up, and just don't rush it. Make the story make sense and make it mean something when it finally happens.
I agree, which is what I kind of hope happens. You're very good at segues with the other co-main event in Tom Latimer taking on EC3. I sometimes feel like EC3, who's a fine champion, doing a great job, so cerebral, I think sometimes that you got to think about what he's saying so it doesn't go over your head. Like it's, the story he's telling is, and he'll explain it to you, is, I did this to Tom. I made this Tom to make him, I sound like him, to make him the best Tom Latimer he can be so that I can be the best EC3 that I can be. Because I have to beat the best if I'm going to be the greatest NWA World Champion of all time. And we all, in our heart of hearts, I think, around the Alliance, want Tom Latimer as world champion.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen right now, and we don't need him to be right now, but we want him to be like a year from now. That, or 2 years from now, or 6 months from now down the road. I hope this is the start of something, to what you were saying for the last match, for the future, rather than the end of it.
I mean, it's one of these things. As much as I want Tom to be champion, I love what Tom is doing, but they're playing chess and they're doing strategic moves that if you go back to when they were having a match and, EC3 stops and he's talking in the ring, and you're like, what the hell's going on? That all that happened in the past is going towards the future. That you're looking and going, well, without good, there is no evil. So if EC3 doesn't do this to Tom, Tom doesn't have a reason to retaliate back.
Right.
This has a story to be told, and Camille, I think, is going to play a big part of it. I just don't know where or when.
Like I was saying last week, and Mike was saying on Twitch right now, watch when Tom get he was cuckolded by Camille. I believe that the reason he'll lose is because of Camille, and I think this is going to cause a storyline issue between the two of them. Because I mean, she got involved on Power when she took care of Khaleesi. Is that her name? Khaleesi for Khaleesi. Khaleesi.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Girlfriend. If you know, you know. She does his talking for him, and I kind of wonder if maybe the reason will be that he's doesn't cut the mustard is because she gets involved, and what that maybe creates the storyline even more. But we'll I think Jay said earlier, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, we'll with the pay-per-view. We're going to do it. I told Jay I want to do it confidence point style. So if you are 100% sure that EC3, if there's 10 matches, right, you get 10 points, 9 points, 8 points, and you got to put them for the 10 different matches. So if I'm 100% sure that EC3 is going to defeat Tom, I put my 10 confidence points in there. If I don't know who's going to win with another one, I maybe put one. Oh, look who it is. He's coming. He's coming. He's in the green room right now, making sure that there's no brown M&Ms in the bowl. Are you coming on? There he is.
Those aren't M&Ms, let me tell you.
They're not M&Ms. Somebody, Jay left the president in the M&M bowl. How are you, my friend?
Good, and you guys?
Good. You've been working late.
Gotta make money.
That's it. We're just going through the Sawin stuff right now, and we just got through it. Did you hear about the TV deal?
Which one? The NWA one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of sites now. I just saw that WrestleZone, are they creditable?
Pretty good.
They said now are also reporting that they've signed with the CW and the NWA.
And it does make sense since they lost the Warner Brothers Discovery deal and Paramount backing as well, I believe. They even stated that they were looking to do more rights deals than be in the production end of anything to get their books back in order. They're kind of treading on water, treading on thin water here, and that was a bad turn of phrase. I don't even know what I was trying to say there.
Yeah, we get it.
I read that they picked up a NASCAR deal to run NASCAR on there. So at the end of the day, sports, fringer sports like wrestling and NASCAR and curling and shit like that is a lot cheaper to pick up and just throw on TV and get ad revenue from.
It's true. It's true. And I was saying earlier before you got on, the reason TV is important over streaming is because that's where advertisers go. So that's where the money comes from. So I kind of learned that this past couple of weeks. But you want to do? Go ahead.
Like I said earlier in the chat, the CW is an antenna channel,
right?
Yep.
So that's even better. You're not having to worry about it being on someone's cable package or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
That's
It's
good.
a win-win, I feel. But until the NWA and the CW come out and say, yeah, this is what's going on.
Yeah, we got to be. We'll wait for that, but it's still exciting news in the meantime.
Yep.
Sam points out that they do have an app as well, so
Yes.
that's something. He's asking, is there an Alliance Guy podcast on the 28th? Like, because I think Mike was saying we'd like to do a watch along. I don't know. I think Jay's gonna look into that. I don't know if I'm gonna watch the pay-per-view, but I like to just sit and watch pay-per-views and not, write stuff down and I like to just I like to do a fuzzy and just like eat my popcorn and watch it as a fan. But if you guys are doing that would certainly be awesome and watchable. Are you doing UWN this week?
I am going to dip my toe in it a little bit and talk about the matches that did go on because they were NWA matches at the end of the day.
Well, then let's go to a segment we like to call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The following is a presentation of the United Wrestling Network.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
The United Wrestling Network does not endorse this product.
They should, though.
They should, though. 100%. Yeah.
Just saying. I give them love. I show that love,
Yeah, 100%. What do you got
for $5, I love them long time.
Oh.
This week in Memphis, I'm going to give you the letdown of the week. We got Uncle Mikey versus the Gun Show for the Memphis Heritage title. The Gun Show retained. Letdown. Disappointed. So was the crowd even. They got up and walked.
Yeah, they were just walking before the 3 count was even done.
But on the flip side of that, from the UWN, we got a recap of 3 title matches for NWA titles from Primetime Live. Remember that show? Didn't last very long, but damn, it was good.
Yeah.
We got the first match was Zicky Dice versus the Pope for the NWA TV title. The Pope went over in that, if you all remember correctly, and then gave a very impassioned speech afterwards.
Yep.
Hell of a match between the two of them. Kudos to both of them. Hats off. All the flowers. Octopi in the ring, on the ice. The whole shebang for that one.
Yeah.
Same with the Aaron Stevens versus Trevor Murdoch match for the NWA National Championship. Another banger match. A little bit of the gaga with Trevor coming out and being the third degree Mongrovian, whatever. I've even got the shirt, and I don't even know the entire title
he was
of what he was.
Third degree Mongrovian black belt, right?
That's right. That's right. But again, another banger match. Hats off to him. Then we closed it out with the match for me from Primetime Live. Overall was Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. These two women completely stole the show, in my opinion. Hell of a match from beginning to end. Serena Deeb afterwards gave an impassioned speech. It hit all of the buttons. It hit all of the check marks that you want from a match. Totally outshined the men on this. And again, this was from we got what, four Primetime Lives before they
I think that's
closed
right.
it out. This for me was the match over the entire series. This was my most favorite match from that entire series.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. If you haven't seen them, they're available on Memphis Wrestling YouTube page. Go watch them. Hell of a matches. Just to still turn a phrase from Fuckwad Meltzer, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 10 stars, all the stars.
All the stars.
But as I tell you every week, if you're not watching the UWN, kiss my ass.
Just straight up simple. That's what you got to do. That's it. Appreciate it. Fuck her up.
Fuck her up, motherfucker.
James H. Jackson, who sends me stuff, I'm sure you guys too, on Twitter all the time, and then I don't answer him because I'm at work and I forget. I'm so sorry, but I really appreciate the tips that you give me, James. You got to follow James H. Jackson on Twitter.
Yes, 100%.
He
put in the chat if you want to hop on here at one point. I'd love to have you on here with us for an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That'd be great. Does each local CW market show things at different times? Lou, my buddy Lou, is KPLR is a CW affiliate. That's where Lou's at. Hoping to snatch some NWA promo swag. Prime time is all the same national programming adjusted for the time zone, of course. So there you go.
Right.
So James asking, so Lou, will this be in tune at the same or at X time and all CW affiliates will show it, or will it be on different off days and times depending on the market? So that depends if it's prime time or not. So I there you go. But for we now for the first time we'll get NWA programming with television commercials. Yeah, we're like 3 years away from what we were saying earlier. Like it'll be 9-minute entrances. They'll lock up, and we got to go to the break. We'll be back up. We'll come back, and I don't know. Colby will be giving Alonzo a bear hug for 3 minutes. Like we're gonna be like, oh my god. Anyway, yeah, so it's funny how not funny, just like Jay was saying, it's just good marketing for Mr. Marquette to show those matches from UWN this week with all the eyes going to the NWA. And I mean, I'm with him. If you're not watching the UWN, you should probably pucker up and kiss his ass. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Memphis, however, I'm the guy who put in the chat. Don't blame Jay. There's only 5 talents there in that whole place that I care about right now. But it did get better this past week. So a little bit better.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We did learn that King Cobra is their new matchmaker, as they call it there, which Booker. So I think that'll take a little bit of the load off of Dustin. I think that's a good thing. And
yeah,
I'm gonna continue to watch, and as soon as I've got a match that's match of the week worthy, you guys will hear about it first.
For me though, like the lowest point recently was when a camera is set outside and not Tip Flex, I don't know, Flex McGee, whatever. Flex.
Oh, come on, dog.
Flex something. I don't know. They show him walking outside, and then he looks up. Okay, then you're at the driver's side window of the truck that they now show you on another camera. So there's a third camera that's right there as the gloved hands grip the steering wheel. Then we're back to the other camera who comes across, and then it's a close-up on Flex going, wait a minute. And then it goes to a test pattern. Cable 10 Wrestling presents.
Damn, dog.
Yeah, man. That was awful. Anyway, it'll get better. It'll continue to get better, I'm sure. I must believe it. In the meantime, all eyes back on the NWA as our fantasy booker extraordinaire wraps up the show in a segment we call I Respect You, Booker Man. I keep forgetting recently to you know why? Because we're smaller and I figure I put the banners up. It makes us like thumbnails. But The Southern Six versus the Headbangers was your fantasy book selection of the week, Dave. Tell us how you see this one coming out.
Well, I look at it as you're building a team. The Southern Six, Kerry and Alex, size-wise, may not match up with the Headbangers, but you have a veteran team in the Headbangers that can help the Southern Six look good, and seeing the history that going back to, I believe, 1998 on Raw, that the Headbangers are former NWA tag team champions. They beat the Rock and Roll Express for those belts on Raw, held it for just over a month, I believe about 35 days. But it's one of these things, they beat the Rock and Roll Express, which puts Ricky in the driver's seat as bringing him out to manage the Southern Six, run some interference. Size-wise, there is quite a difference, but you look at it as speed over size, plus youth over experience, that you have the speed and the strength of the younger team going over the veterans. But it's also good to have a veteran team to be able to help out that younger talent. And if they bring them in for the pay-per-view and hopefully a couple tapings, they can build up the tag team division, whether it be for the U.S. or the World Tag Belts. Now, I'd give this match probably a good 10 to 12 minutes. You give them some decent time on entrances, do some finagling. Whoever is with the Southern Six, whether it be Thrillbilly making a run in and taking down the Headbangers, or if Ricky is their quote unquote manager who's in their corner and him running interference and doing whatever needs to be done. I'm not quite sure why they brought the Headbangers in, but it's one of these things that the Headbangers have worked in the past with Juggalo Wrestling. So they have a past with a lot of the people that are involved with this upcoming pay-per-view. So it may not just be for the Southern Six, but they're actually looking at telling stories and crossing storylines. So I'm just hoping that they do their best. It's one of these things of the Headbangers style-wise fit in with the quote-unquote ICP type Vampiro music, Billy Corgan Smashing Pumpkins type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a style and a way of presenting things. It's not so much a storyline to tell of, oh, we're a spooky tag team. But who knows? At one time, they were known as the Spiders and the Flying Nuns. So who knows what they show up as? It's one of these things that I'm sort of scratching my head and going, well, I know these guys know how to wrestle. At least we'll see a decent match out of this. Let's just wait and see what happens. I'm taking the Southern Six for a underhanded win, but it's one of these things that if done right, they can be used at the next couple of tapings. And there are several events in November that they could be brought in and used against either NWA talent or outside talent if they are going to become part of the NWA going forward.
Right.
I'm not sure who they know or why they're being brought in, but it's, in my opinion, it's always good to see some new faces. So it's not always the same story of Team A versus Team B. And then, oh, wrestler 1 from Team A versus wrestler 2 from Team B. You always have a change of styles and a change of scenery, even if it is the same wrestling organization. There's always different wrestlers to tell that story.
Right.
So just it's going to be a wait and see. I enjoyed them when they had their time in the WWE and WWF back in the day, and it's hard to believe that it's been 25 years since they were tag team champions.
Absolutely. Listen, I'll make a pitch for you right now. You're the booker. I come into your office. I go, look, Dave, I got it. I got it for you right now. Thrasher and Mosher, is that their names? Mosh and Thrasher. They come in. They come out with Rolandos. They're the new Spectaculars. What do you say?
Wow.
Get out of my office.
I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm speechless.
Yeah.
But,
could you just see him?
I don't know.
Yeah. You're too polite. Yeah, that would be a terrible idea. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. By the way, if I was distracted, it was because someone just pointed me at the fact that Wrestle News, 250,000 people following them right now. On Twitter says the NWA signed with CW, and their first article is, now that they've signed with CW, should CM Punk be their top star? And I chuckled because that's never going to happen. But regardless of that, the NWA. So Kylie Page reposted something saying, "I'm pretty sure the top stars are right here. It's pretty empowered." And the NWA reposted that. So there's no denial on the NWA page right now, or no confirmation, but that seems like a pretty good source when they're saying they have done this. Now that they've done this, what do they do now?
It's not quote unquote official, but we're spilling the beans.
Right.
So nobody can go back on saying that it's a falsehood. That we're basically letting you know it's true, but we can't say it until it's made official by the quote unquote TV station.
Right.
On our end, everything's okay. We're waiting on them.
Yeah, they're either waiting on them or they're waiting on Billy or something. So you're right. Thank you, Dave. Awesome as always. James H. Jackson. Also in the article, it said the NWA territory shows will be shown on the YouTube channel. I missed that part. I also agree. That'll be great. I look forward to that. As for the match that we're just talking about, Dave, Mike's not into it. Mike's especially cutting tonight. Pretend this match is Jenny Craig. You watch it, you don't want to eat anymore. You can't hold anything down, and you lose all that weight because all the shit that comes out of it. Juggalo Pro for an NWA territory? Maybe. I mean, no, thank you. For me, is that even still a thing? I thought that was gone years ago.
No, I think they still do it. It's just at the gatherings, though. I believe. I think it's just put on for the gatherings now.
Oh.
Well, in my thought, you want to have some wrestlers that can go back and forth. So, I mean, yeah, you have Exodus Pro, that if you have Joe Kazana and maybe Jacobs Pritchard do a combo show. That Jacobs Pritchard is more or less a training facility, but they also do events. But if they can do combo events and work together, that you have basically a Knoxville, maybe Tri-Cities area within a 200-mile radius, you have 1, 2, or 3 promotions that work within the NWA.
Right.
And down in Florida, you have, if they're doing Sarasota or they're doing Boca Raton, that you have 2 or 3 in that area that's NWA/Florida. That it doesn't have to be just one promotion. It can be several promotions in an area. And if they do a show every other month, between 5 or 6, you're set. You only have to do maybe 3 or 4 events a year that are standalone NWA events. You do your anniversary show, you do Hard Time, you do Crockett Cup, and maybe one other. And then at each of these other places, you do, like I was talking about earlier, like when WWF did the In Your House. You do smaller events that are pay-per-views to take you through from one event to another to the next taping. So it's basically one of those things that you have working relationships with these companies, but you use it to your advantage. And then you have your talent there for some of their events. So every event that is taped, recorded, or shown on pay-per-view has a touch of the NWA.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Did I get everything in the chat?
I believe with Lou Thez's question or statement of wondering if it's will carry over. I believe this was done in anticipation to follow up whenever the Warner Brother is completely pulls the rest of their content from the CW. I believe that that these deals are probably going. If this is the case, that it is in preparation of Warner Brothers being completely done.
Right. That's interesting. One of the things I've learned this year, before we call it a night, guys, is that I have to be more patient than I am. And that if I'm looking as, more of like, I'm in business. So as a businessman, I should be looking more at the long game for the answers that I'm looking for than what does this mean? Could this mean that tomorrow? Like, did the UWN see what was happening with the NWA and know about the TV rumors and plan that their programming, just as a random example, 8 weeks ago to show up at this time? Like, maybe yes. Like, there is a greater storyline here, I guess, to use the wrestling term, than the short-term stuff that I think that we see in for the real life stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
So listen, I did want to go out on one thing. The PWI 250, which is the women's rankings. You guys want to hear the top 10?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Number 1, Rhea Ripley. I mean, makes sense. WWE. Number 2, Julia from Stardom. Number 3, Bianca Belair, WWE. Number 4, Jamie Hayter, AEW. Number 5, Tam Nakano from Stardom. Number 6, Athena from Ring of Honor. I don't know how a Ring of Honor wrestler of either gender makes this. Anyway, that's the list. You're supposed to argue about it. 7 is Deonna Purrazzo from Impact. 8, Willow Nightingale, AEW. 9, they call her Camille Brick on the list. Camille, the Brick House. is number 9 on PWI's top women's wrestler of the year for the NWA. And rounding out the top 10 with a tip of the hat to Willie Bowen, it's Jordan Grace, one of his favorites from Impact, who I don't think has especially been active. I don't even really watch Impact, but there you go. Congratulations to the Brickhouse Camille, Mrs. Tom Latimer, for being number 9 on the PWI Top 250 this year.
Very well deserved.
Very well deserved. I think that's got to do it for us, guys. What do you say? You ready to head home? You can probably are home. Let's do this. Where's that banner? Here you go. Talk to us, Dave Scooby, about the social media, where they can find you.
They can find me at Dave Scooby on X, formerly known as Twitter. Also over on Instagram at Dave Scooby, and TikTok at Dave Scooby, followed by the number 1.
Jeremy?
You can find me over on Elon's app at HJWOTS. I'm not even going to try and figure out what it's called anymore. It's just his app. You can find me over on Threads at Championship Wrestling Jeremy, and on YouTube at Worm5559.
I am at the Alliance Gold on all of the different social medias, but most importantly, alliance-wrestling.com, at the Alliance blog, everywhere under the sun, and alliance-wrestling.com, your number 1 source for news and information around the NWA. So our timing was great for TV and territories and all of that stuff, but tomorrow night, Power gets in depth with I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? The Alliance guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. They'll get into Power. They'll get into what television deals mean. DKM and Jaden, they both have had hands in this stuff in the past, and it can give you an insight from their unique perspective, like they have been for the past 14 years, obviously, with Jay, with the boss, who has the pre-party on Tuesdays just before Power starts at 5 p.m., where he spends an hour leading up to that day's Power and going over some of the news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance. That's it. That's all. Let's go to the last of the comments. I think this is for this. Willow couldn't beat Camille with a gun.
So true, James. So true.
We got to go out on that one. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches, hopefully on CW.
Thanks for joining the stream.
Right.
This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.